Status Podcast.
Hey man, hey Ty, Zay, I don't know about y'all, but I'm excited tonight for this episode, man. Especially after talking about the Sha'Carri Richardson situation. Not even finally, for the first time for me, for you to interview Olympian. You know what I mean? That's dope. So, he's a Kent State alum. He's from the Ohio area, Solon High School. Went to, yours truly. I had to represent, you know what I mean? Reggie Jagers.
He got some options to choose from.
Great.
But like DB was saying, we trying to make sure we can get as many student athletes on to talk about their experiences. You never know, what you went through at Kent that could really touch, someone else that's coming up and can really think about like, man, I'm, going through that same thing, or man, I didn't look at it the way that, the way that Reggie looks at it. We're trying to figure out different ways that we can help student athletes kind of navigate their own journey. You know what I mean? So Dana said that you would be a great person to have on. And, we really want to get you on, hear about your story, hear about all of the nasty things DB used to do on campus. You can out him as much as you want, man. That's what we're here to listen to.
Hey.
But no,
DB and Rosie was infamous. They was doing some shit. So.
Oh man.
You could only imagine, boy.
Football team had a name. They was always doing some type of shit. Either the girls fighting.
They was at Kent wilding out, boy.
Boys was like their own fraternity, but like we was like cool. Like, you know what I mean? Like Red said, like we show love. Like I wasn't one of them dudes. I was cool with everybody. Like show love to everybody.
That's how I was too. But I come to the party with the full roster. 100 people, you can't control 100 people, especially when they start drinking and shit.
Exactly.
Yeah, every football versus basketball. Then somehow wrestling jump into it.
Your boys had beef. Your boys had beef with the other sports.
Yes,
there'll be a couple boys that'd be like just over a girl or something.
It was over females,
yeah.
Oh no, y'all's tripping about that.
Like the hoop squad, because like the hoop squad, them boys was some dirty boys. Like them boys was wild.
Wow, shoot.
Then you had I don't know if you remember Brandon Bailey. He was in your class for the track side, and just people was, girls right. It was too much. It was too much.
Y'all ain't supposed to be beefing about no females, man.
That's what I was saying.
Yeah,
the track team, they thought I was a secret weapon because I was big as the football player. It was like we got Reggie.
A secret weapon, boy.
I'm not about to fight a whole roster.
Man, that sounds crazy, man.
Yeah.
But before you got to Kent and had your beef with the football squad,
I was cool. So no, because Rosie and DB, they was like OG, so they would let me into the club. So they had bought me liquor, like it was all this shit. And I didn't drink, so I would just always be like, "No, I'm cool. I'll pass it over to a female or something." But they always looked out for me. And
they were showing big love, huh?
Yeah, I think they were trying to recruit me on the low.
Hey, what position did you play, Reggie, in football?
I played DN, linebacker, fullback, and tight end.
See, we know we needed another DN. That's what it was.
We're gonna talk about this in the podcast, but there was a reason why I was, I went the track route. So
yeah, now we get it. Ty, we get it started.
Yeah, we could get into that now. So you did play football, before you got into the track route. Who kind of influenced you to become, the football player before you got into track?
That was pretty much my dad. So I feel like growing up, your dad always puts you in those minor league sports. So and you usually see yourself playing football or basketball. So that's kind of where everything started for me. And I pretty much love football, obviously, and I was recruited for both football and track. And track kind of was like a later thing. Like I ended up doing track when I was a junior in high school. So it was kind of like I just wanted something extra to do, My freshman year, I wrestled, track, basketball. I decided just to focus on football after that point. And I was just chilling. Like you know how you want to start lifting weights, you want to get more active in the off season. I went to Solon High School, so we lost third round of the playoffs by 1 point to St. Ed's, St. Ignatius, and Menor, and then Glenville as well. So all 4 years, I had a bad taste in my mouth for team sports. I'm like, we keep losing by 1 point. We played Trubisky. We played Kareem Hunt. Glenville's whole team. I don't know if you know about Glenville, but y'all from Pittsburgh. I'm assuming y'all have heard about them. That's Ted Ginn's team where he came out of high school at. So this shit was. I was let me see what track can do.
Yeah, and speaking of track, a lot of people use track in the off season of their primary sport to kind of like say you got some skill position guys. I'm going to run track so I can try to get faster, or basketball guys, I'm going to high jump and try to get my vertical, increase my vertical. So how did you kind of find track?
So track is a little bit different when you a bigger person, right? So you wouldn't necessarily use track to make you bigger or stronger in that sense. You're seeing a lot of guys who are speed guys and they want to get faster, so they were on the track. So for me joining track, it kind of was just like, I want to try a different avenue. I don't necessarily think this will make me a better football player, because it's not like I'm running on the track. I was a thrower. But I felt like I just wanted to challenge myself and try something new. So I at that time in high school, I could throw a football 70 yards. I had an arm. I wasn't the quarterback, but I just could always throw shit. So I saw the kids throwing during indoor season for football. So I'm lifting, when it get cold and after the season over, and I'm kind of like seeing what's going on around me. You can see the track athletes were on the track, running and throwing and whatnot. And I just had the idea to myself that like I could do that. Like that's something. Like I see them doing, I could do that myself. And that's kind of where it stemmed from. So
whenever you started, throwing for track, did you kind of put football on the back burner, or did you continue to kind of, do both at a high level?
So when you play football in Ohio, you can't really put it on the back burner, especially at my school. We were a top program in the state, so you pretty much had leadway. So like you could join a track team, but you're really still playing football and lifting for football. Yeah. So that's kind of how it was. And then once I started getting a lot better at track, that's when they were just like, all right, well, you can do both. You can pick, you can do whichever one you want. And I pretty much stayed dedicated to football, but track, I just kept, taking off. Like within 2 years, I made the Junior Pan American team, and that's where you're top in the country for athletes under 21. And I'm wearing the Team USA jersey after 2 years. If I'm in South America, I'm in Medellin, Colombia, the drug capital of the world, with a Team USA jersey after doing it for 2 years. So in my mind, I was just like, this. You can travel the world now, internationally. You don't got to pay for nothing. You can see all this, pretty much the whole world. And I went to Kent State, got a 4 right at that time too. So then I'm like, I only been doing this shit for 2 years, but really I've been doing it for 2 seasons because I was pretty much playing football and lifting for football and doing all that the whole time. So I just saw my time in the sport and where I had gone in that short amount of time. And I'm like, this is a no-brainer. Like,
yeah, so you pretty much chose track and field for kind of what it could do for you. And when did you kind of fall in love with track instead of saying, oh, this can do X, Y, and Z for me, but now I actually love what I'm doing?
For me, I feel like my first love would be football, but for track, it's a different type of sport. It's more of a skill. So it's more like that competitive factor to get good at something and then be better than other people, where football is kind of like me versus you, which I do miss that type of vibe because I actually bring my football self into the track world, and that's what makes me good. So I try to apply like being athletic, being explosive into track. So it's just a different, chess versus checkers, basically. It's a different type of mindset of a sport to where you're trying to do something like finite, like a certain skill so well, kind of like being a defensive end where you're trying to work on, running your circle, using the swim move, like in that regard. But now it's not really like you're going against somebody else. You're going against records, basically. So it's a different type of, the enemy is really foot and inches, which the same thing is in football, but you also have an opponent in football. So me, it's just me versus the tape measure, basically.
Was it hard? Was it hard to give up football?
I would say it was real hard, especially so pretty much. I feel like God had always brought me back to track. So every time I thought about football, even at Kent, I'm one of the strongest dudes on the campus. I'm like, I could do, I could at least play football and go back out there. And the coaches, they giving me gear. They, always been super friendly. They invited me to the food table. So now I'm the only track dude eating food table with the football players. And I'm just like, this is fun, like they taking care of me basically. But I would say every time that happened, something in track happened really well. So my freshman year, when I was like, I'll see how track goes, they gave me a full ride. Now my mom, she said she couldn't pay for school. So obviously the full ride was a big thing, especially if you got there early. So I said after freshman year, I'll make a decision to see if I'll go back to football. And I was the only freshman at the NCAA championship. Then I got freshman athlete of the year at Kent State. That's when I made the Pan America team to go to Columbia, when I'm wearing a USA jersey. So as a young athlete, somebody being from Cleveland, to where you never really travel outside of Cleveland. Now they flying you to Columbia in South America. You kind of.
Oh, I'm sorry, Reggie. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I kind of put that in perspective to like, okay, God told me basically you're topping the NCAA for all freshmen and you just started again. So now I'm just leveling up each time. And I was like, all right, we're going to try it again for another year, like see what happened. And that wave kept like, once you get so good, you just keep building it. It was like I put so much time into the sport, I can't just give up at this point.
Yeah, for sure.
Craziness.
So my first goal, even before I said I feel like I always want to go back to football in the end. But my first goal was to become an Olympian first, because that could open up more doors if you ever want to backtrack. So I know if you guys know Marquise Goodwin, there's a few track guys who went into the NFL, and I said let's get your goals, first. Being an Olympian is a 1%er type thing too. So you can do that, and then you can do anything after that point as well. So, I like to set a goal and then finish it and then move on.
Yeah, for sure. So do you feel like your journey? You feel like your journey is going to take you back to football eventually, or you think you're going to just ride this wave and finish your athletic career as a track athlete?
Should the league gonna tell you that? I mean,
NFL is still writing $1 million checks. Last time you checked, right?
Hey, bro, that'll be a nice story too. Storyline.
I mean, to be like, so when I was coming out of high school, if you think about the area, the school I went to, we came from inner city Cleveland. Then we moved to Solon, which is a top program. It's more of in the suburbs, to where you're not really getting those opportunities like you would if I went to Glenville or Benedictine, schools that were down the street, to where I would be embraced by that school. So I feel like me joining track was kind of like, whatever I do, no one can hold me back. Like legit, if I throw this distance, I can go X, Y, Z. So that was kind of my vibe.
But,
hey Reggie, can I ask you, man? I read something that said that like you said, your junior year you're weightlifting, and you said you looked out onto the track and you were like, man, I could do this. And I'm listening to you talk just now. So you were speaking to an interviewer and you told him that the first time you ever threw, on the track, you threw farther than everybody else on your team.
Yeah. So let me paint the picture. So I was lifting for football and I see them out there in the courtyard doing track or whatever, and I feel like if you believe in yourself in any type of capacity, you feel like when you see stuff, you're like, oh, I can do that. And it is determined by actually you being able to do it after the fact. So for me, I pretty much saw what they were doing, and I'm like a researcher as well. So after I said that original thought, and my teammate, who was also a highly recruited football player, to where he was on the track and football team, but he didn't even have to do track like during the offseason. He just focused on football, so that's how good he was. And he received offers too. And he pretty much was like, Reggie, you probably want to be good at it. Like, just focus on football. Like, I think you can, go X, Y, and Z. Just put your eggs in that basket. And that actually challenged me too, because I'm like, I could do what you're doing. Like I don't even gotta, I could be in your position. And so I looked on YouTube for 2 weeks after that point, and I made sure that I saw a bunch of videos to where I was like, oh, I'm very visual. So I'm like, I can really do this shit for real. So my first day going out there, the coach, he kind of was like, nah, all right, go throw one. Let's see what you can do. And I did it so well, and I beat everyone else that was been training for 3-4 years there, that he was like, you're lettered, you're on the team, let's sign you up. Like he was excited, and it just took off.
Lettered.
Right, you know how everybody wants a letter? He was like, first day, letter. Here you go. You're in it.
That's dope.
Yeah, and that was a good feeling coming from the football perspective, to where you kind of got to warm up to your coaches. I was a two-way player, so eventually I was able to warm up to them to the point where you're so good that they can't deny you, basically. So that's kind of where I was at. Like I overcame that part of it, but I could see my teammates who weren't able to, and I kind of was like you're on the team, and you like, this player is 10 times better than so and so, but so and so's dad donates to the boosters, so his dad donated $500K. So I was like, the coach, they making their decisions or whatever.
Now look.
Yeah.
You understand, man?
No, Jim Trussell will come to the school and asking like, who should I talk to? And the coach see like the black kids. He's like, no, let's go over here to Timmy, who's 5'5", who would never be on a Division I program. And you just like, it just don't add up to me.
It doesn't make any sense.
Were you that
confident?
You said what? I said, did you? Was it transition to Pan American? Was it that same type of deal? Like you were throwing farther than everybody else, dominating the competition?
Not well. Yes and no. So when I got to that level, I realized that I had been doing this for 2 years, and everybody else had been doing this for 12 years at that point. So because this is international people, so this means that the best person from Jamaica is representing Jamaica, the best, 2 people from Colombia, the best 2 people from all those little countries, all in the Western Hemisphere. So if you think about, I'm like, my technique looks worse than theirs, but it also looks better at the same time because I'm smoother and like more explosive, and I've been doing it for less. So I just felt like, wait till I catch up.
Boy, you better represent. You got me hyped.
I'm like, wait till I catch up to you. I'm like, wait till I have as many years in as you have been. Then we'll see what's really going on. And I feel like the first meet, I went to like an AAU type meet where it was regionals and then nationals, and like it kept going up in that order between it got bigger and bigger. And I could see how a lot of the kids, their technique was flawless. Like it looked like they were doing ballet for real in the ring. And my shit was pretty much like herky jerky. It was raw. You feel me? So that gave me motivation to be like, I'm already faster and stronger than you. The only reason why yours looks better than mine is because you've done it for so long.
I was about to say, tell us about this, if you don't mind, about this 20% power to 80% power technique of your acceleration. You're always accelerating before you start your throw. Tell us about, if you like, I'm listening to everything you're saying about like how competition already had it down pat. You know what I mean? I'm visualizing the picture you painting right now. You know what I mean? Like not knowing how to.
I see the creative one. You gotta, I'm left-handed too. So the hardest part for me was when a coach says something right-handed, I gotta flip it in my head, and I feel like that made me better actually. Like, and even me watching YouTube, like most kids might not be that visual to even like pick up stuff from watching random people on a screen basically without instruction basically. So for my thing is, I was able to kind of maybe have a better IQ, or maybe I was more mature as an athlete to where when I started track, I already knew what I wanted to do. Versus if you start something young, you don't really know what's going on. So I was already mature up here to where I could just take leaps and bounds ahead of people while they were just, bullshitting basically.
Right. No, that's big. I don't think a lot of athletes could do that nowadays, for real. So, us being at Kent, we hold it down. What brought you to Kent?
I know I didn't answer your 80-20 rule. My bad.
No, that's all right for now. It's cool.
But,
What brought me to give that up?
Right. I definitely can't give up all the secrets, but
I got you.
what brought me to Kent was really I was at a meet for doing the shot put, which I had just started that month. And the coach at Kent State, that's where we came from Solon. So we ended up getting on a bus going to Kent State. They had like a big meet with all the high schools in the area were there. So I pretty much was thinking about what my mom said, like we can't pay for school. So I see a college coach right in front of me. So I ended up throwing. I had a bad day, but like I guess I caught his attention in the sense of he knew I don't do shot put. He knew that I just started, and we had probably like a 2-hour conversation after the meet. So I feel like he had to have seen something in me for us to even talk for 2 hours, like a complete stranger or whatever. And I think he saw how passionate I was talking about the event to where he saw like I'm watching YouTube, I'm doing everything on my own. He saw how quickly I had went from 160 my first year to now I'm at 190, which is topping the state in 2 seasons, basically. So he kind of like, I might have a gem, basically. That's what he told me. He was like, I have a guy that no one knows about because he literally just started. Not even like if you think about the list of like everybody in America, everyone's been doing this for 4 years. He just started a year ago at that point, you know? So he kind of felt like this dude could be, you know, an asset to my team. So he actually had a lot of vision too and like foresight because I was doing shot put, which I was good at, but it wasn't like how I was with discus. Mm-hmm. So I remember my teammates at Kent, they also like my first day on campus, they kind of was like, why did coach get this guy basically? Because they saw me throw shot put. They like, coach, did you see what we saw? Like it was bad, you know? So I pretty much just had to show what happened and like why I guess he recruited me, and they were able to see it for themselves when they trained with me. But at that moment, they were all telling me like we didn't even know why he recruited you. Like how was you on a full ride and we on 20%? Yeah, and they thought to themselves that they were better than me.
Yeah, can you talk a little bit about that because a lot of Olympic sports are based on partial scholarships.
Yeah.
What was the ratio like on your team?
So that's a weird question too, because it's really up to the coach to decide how much percentage he wants. Because if you think about it, he's like a general manager where he's putting together a roster basically. Mm-hmm. He's trying to secure pieces for the least amount of money. So I realized that pretty young, and good thing coming out of Solon, which is one of the top schools publicly in the state of Ohio, is one of just on academics alone. I came out of school with the honors diploma, had a 3.5. I was a pretty smart dude, so I was able to have, I think, 50% from academics alone.
Oh, that's cool.
And Kent State also being we had like Black United students and all that stuff, so I qualified for those scholarships. And I believe on the academic side, it was 50%. So I was telling coach, I'm like, you just got to bring 50% in, and I'm good, you know. I earned some scholarships at Solon. I had to type some papers in about why y'all should give me scholarship money at my high school. Mm-hmm. And winning them somehow. Like we had like a whole, it was a whole like graduation type ceremony, and they called me up. I was surprised as hell, but I wrote a good letter. So I felt like, I had a chance to get some money from my high school. And each year also, I guess the second year after freshman year, my academic scholarships would disappear. So I knew I'm going to have to throw for this freshman year or I'm going to have to cover 50%, after that year. So there was a lot of pressure in that sense too. And I remember I pretty much betted on myself because Coach Fanger, the throws coach at Kent, he said basically, if you make it to nationals, then Coach Lawson, who is the head coach, he has to give you a full ride. Mm. And he was like, but if you redshirt, then you could develop and then you can come on next year and kind of like figure that out for the 50%. And I was the type of athlete to where I'm like, I'm good enough to go against the top people in NCAA right now. So I'm not going redshirt, which was very hard because I was already young in the sport. So I was like true freshman at the NCAA championship against, they were men for real. They were like, they've been doing it for a little bit bigger. And I bet on myself and I made it and I did well there. So that gave me more confidence for the year after to come back to Coach Lawson and be like, I need full ride. Like all the other schools saw me, they recruit me now. I'm getting recruited by Bama, Clemson, LSU, because when they realized I was the only freshman there, they like, oh, he could be pretty good, you know. So every school trying to talk to me on the side at the championships. They trying to, you know, we got scholarship money for you. Come up, like over here.
Yeah,
basically.
yeah.
That was probably the hardest decision to stay at Kent at that time, because you got so much, you know, being dangled in front of you. But I kind of felt like they weren't day ones. Like they didn't pick up the phone when I called. You know what I'm saying?
No
So,
doubt.
so essentially, that's the reason why you stayed at Kent, because they was basically there from the beginning.
Yeah, and they did make me feel bad because they was like, I guess I was one of the only athletes on the Kent team to even make it to nationals. So I guess they started to realize my worth too, because the head coach, I remember he was always saying little stuff like he didn't really know why I got a full ride too, because he was kind of like,
whoa,
you costing me money, basically, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah, it was a roller coaster. Like my first college meet, I fouled out. So that means that I didn't record a mark, basically.
Right.
But I remember it went like 55 meters, which is pretty far, but it said an X on the sheet. So he, in his head, he's like, yo, this guy's falling out. He's on a full ride. You know, we gave him all his money. What's going on? And I had to pretty much, I guess, double down and focus more to make sure that my throws coach didn't stick his neck out for me and kind of got bit by it.
No doubt. Coming out of high school for Olympic athletes, do you recommend being like really well-rounded in the sense of having a good college application, having a good GPA, and being able to get money other than athletic scholarship? Because, you know, what are the chances that you're going to get 100% athletic scholarship coming out of high school in track and field?
I would say don't put all your eggs in one basket, because I tried track at the end of my high school career, and I'm going to the Olympics for it now. Mm-hmm. So I would say make sure you're diverse, because I always did different sports, and like even like mental preparation, I could think back to everything we did football wise to get your body and get your mind ready as like a team, to where I feel like mentally I'm a lot stronger than people who just did track alone, because they never experienced that type of brotherhood or that type of struggle where you want to puke and throw up. When somebody's screaming at you, you got to respond. You know, you might got tears in your eyes, but you got to go take somebody. Like pretty much that type of battle tested, you know?
Yeah, for sure.
I feel like those sports prepared me to kind of be able to be at the top mentally in track as well, because it's more than a physical sport. Just like, I think you were alluding to the 80-20 rule.
Mm-hmm.
When you're talking about mental and physical.
I was talking about, actually, I was watching a training video, bro. It's like something. It was older. It was you. It was a guy that was from Canada, and he was training with you and a couple of the top throwers in the world. Mm-hmm. He was talking about how you were giving him advice about your.
I know what you're talking about. I shouldn't have told him that, because he. He's a Canadian. He's like one of my competitors, but he's trying to get to a higher level.
Right.
But
you don't got to talk about it if you don't want to.
No. So I would say. A lot of times if you train it with me, you think we're on the same level, like if we're throwing the same distance, but I'm going 80% or I'm going a lot easier and it's looking better and it's going the same distance. But then I got like a different gear I can, a deeper level I can tap into basically.
Right.
So,
all right, Drake.
That's how bro, like you gotta
hey bro, you gotta see it though. Like whenever he's like you know what I mean, his wind up, his actual start, the acceleration and everything, bro. It's crazy.
So me having a different level of, if I'm training at 80%, I'm throwing where you're at, or even 60%, and I'm throwing where you're at, you're throwing at 100%, or you throwing at 100% to stay where I'm at basically. So I feel like I can shift gears to pretty much go faster or try harder or be more precise with my movements to make a further throw basically. So I was alluding to him though. I was telling him that he tries to go the same speed the whole way around. I build speed, so I'll start slow and go faster, and it's an easier conversion rate of like physics basically to where it produces better throws. And I just think that's a different mindset. Like other people, they just try and go fast, you know what I'm saying? But I like to build up into it to where I start a little bit slower, but by the end of the throw, I can always go faster. So if I start to throw at a speed, the end's going to be even faster basically. Some people start so fast, but they can't keep up with that speed at the end.
Right.
That means you're not in control, basically.
Balance.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what I was wondering. So in the end, whenever you basically, it's like almost swinging a bat and making contact.
Yeah.
You know, whenever it leaves your hand, you know where it's going. You know what I mean?
So when I finish a discus, I think about swinging a bat, baseball, or throwing a left hook. That's how I think about the throw too.
That's crazy.
So if you think about the mindset of it, if I'm going slow to fast and I'm already faster than you because I'm more athletic and I was a football guy, I use my talents in discus. You're a big, bulky type of guy. You already trying to go fast just because you see me going fast, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So that's already throwing you off because you trying to be like me.
Bugging.
Yeah, so I like to, you know, and people don't realize that I'm also fast because I'm smooth. So if you think about if all the pieces line up, it's the illusion of speed as well. So I'm just more like, it's like finesse type.
More fluent, yeah.
You just trying to go fast. So if you're trying to go fast and I'm finessing, I'm already faster, you're already at a disadvantage.
Right. No.
Hey, Reg, academically, let me get into some academics on your side. Coming from high school, you know, you think Solon prepared you for what you walked into Kent your freshman year?
Yeah, I feel like it prepared me in more than just academically. I would say Solon is an area where a lot of the top minority groups go to in Cleveland. So you got a lot of Jews, a lot of, you know, people from India. You got the Chinese and you have the whites, and they're more like the higher level of people who are making more money, obviously, or their careers are, you know, a lot higher. And I feel like my family, we were struggling to be in that environment, but my mom wanted to make sure we had good schooling. So I feel like that type of powder keg type of environment where you have so many different people around you prepared me for Kent, because as you know, Kent was pretty much like that.
Right.
You got a lot of different groups there, and if you dealt with any type of racism at Solon, you even gonna be prepared for that at Kent, you know. Or if you dealt with all these different groups, they're not really gonna be a shock to you because you've already seen that before. So I felt like on a social level, it prepared me to just assimilate and be able to navigate properly. But academically, it made my first 2 years at Kent pretty easy because I had already done a lot of that stuff in school. So it wasn't, you know, it wasn't like it was just new to me to where I'm struggling academically to where I can't tap into my sport too, you know?
Right.
So I was in honors classes at Solon. I was at advanced placement classes too. So when I came to Kent, I was actually more nervous that those schools that teaching didn't prepare me, and it was the exact opposite.
So did anything catch you off guard? Like, was there any class that you was like, oh snap? Like, what was one of those moments that stuck out to you?
I would say the chemistry classes, and I was kind of just more misadvised, I would say, because you know they give you advisors and they tell you what classes, and my advisor was making it seem like the classes were so hard. You know, it's like she was just like, you don't want to go to that class, and she made me think that I didn't belong in that class, basically. But I ended up going to that class, obviously, and I did fine. I did all right. There were a few classes that were probably the easier classes that I didn't do as well in because I was focusing more on the harder classes where I was focusing more on my sport too. So I had to just lock in and make sure I was well balanced because like I said, my freshman year, the scholarship was based on academics and you had to maintain a 3.0 GPA.
Yeah.
So you also a college freshman, you got the girls, you got the parties, you trying to, you know, earn your scholarship. You already feel like you don't belong in these classes because, you know, you're not really being accepted, or they're kind of even looking at you like, why are you in honors chemistry? You feel me? Or why are you even in regular chemistry? Like they want you to be in, you know, athlete classes basically. So that was the hard part, just kind of getting through all that and then keeping your GPA so you ain't lose your scholarship on the academic side.
Do you feel like your advisors labeled you in a stereotypical way whenever you got on Kent, you know, thinking that you automatically wouldn't be able to excel in those type of classes?
I feel like in the beginning they did, but then I feel like they realized once my grades started coming back, it was like, oh no, he's gonna be okay in these higher level classes. And I just had to decide because a lot of my mentors or my older people, especially on the track team, they were also telling me to do easier classes so that you could just get by. And I was kind of just, I guess, dealing with the idea of how much should I challenge myself versus how much should I pour in my sport versus like why am I even here at this school, you know? So do I really value the education or am I here to do track, you know? So at that point, I hadn't really realized that you can go pro in track and field. You feel me? I was doing it more for the scholarship. And once I made that junior Pan American team and had the USA jersey on, then I looked down at it, I'm like, what's the highest level above this, you know? And it was the Olympics. And that's when it really, like the Olympic dream was born in 2013, when I realized there's a higher level than where you're at right now. Like I didn't know the ceiling. And that was just the goal that I made at that moment.
Do you think you could have capitalized on that new NIL rule?
So my each year at Kent, I was getting bread after that freshman year, especially. So after my scholarship money disappeared, I remember we came back from the NCAA trip, and I'm talking to the head coach. I'm like, "Hey, coach, I was your only athlete from Kent State at the NCAA championship." I'm like, my academic money about to disappear. Partly because Solon had a rule where they only paying for your first semester or something like that. But they paid like, I want to say like $4,000 or something. And my academic money picked up the rest, and then Lawson picked up the rest after that. So I was telling him like there's gonna be holes in the money that you're gonna have to, pick up or whatever. I remember he was playing hardball with like his poker face. And I'm a young athlete as well, so I don't really know how much leverage I have. So if I was in the atmosphere right now, I would have been good. Like I'd have been like, coach, if you don't pay me this, I'm gonna play football. Like they want me over here. Like I'm gonna just leverage myself to the best of my abilities. And I feel like I did a good job of that because I told him, I'm like, coach, this is my third year doing track. I just made the Pan American team. I'm your only guy here at the NCAA. I'm the only freshman here. I'm like, imagine what we could do next year. And I'm also putting in his ear, a lot of other colleges are, they like me, you know what I'm saying? Like they want me to join their school. So we had to have a real talk. And a lot of times coaches try to, I guess, have a power struggle to where like you're so young that you don't realize how much power you have. Mm-hmm. So they try to make it seem like I was wrong for wanting to leave, you know what I'm saying? Or even wanting to like ask for more money. But I had to, break it down to like a survival type instinct. I'm like, my family can't pay. So the money has to come from somewhere, And they're like, well, you can take loans out. And I'm like, I feel like I'm more talented than to take loans out. Like, y'all, it's kind of a slap in the face if you telling me to take out a loan. I'm your best athlete on the team. So I kind of knew my worth in that sense. And I feel like I could back it up too with my performance.
It sounds like they didn't value the whole organization as a whole. You know what I mean? Honestly.
So if you think about track and field, a lot of head coaches, when they build their team, they kind of feel like throwers are kind of like offensive linemen. Remember how offensive linemen didn't really get paid like a few years ago?
Right.
They kind of felt like you should walk on or be happy with a book scholarship or 20%. And I was like, I'm twice as better as your sprinters anyway. So I'm gonna make the school known for doing throws versus you as the head coach. You might favorite, the sprints because our head coach was a decaf coach. So he favored the decathlon and the jumps and the sprints. But I came along was like, nah, I'm gonna make the school known for throwing. Like the school don't even know about y'all on the sprint side on the world level because they know about me basically, So I had to like leverage myself and be like, it might not be the plan that you wanted for the team, but like I'm here now. And do you want to keep me here or do you want to let me go somewhere else basically?
Yeah, no doubt.
And you got to do it respectfully too, because just the atmosphere that we're in, So I had to tell them I want to be here, but you got to help me be here because my parents aren't like all the other kids who can just pay, X, Y, Z. So,
do you feel like you would have been able to go to Kent if you didn't get that academic scholarship originally out of high school?
So now that I think about it, Mom, I have a black mom, like y'all probably got too, and she told me she couldn't pay. But when I got older, I'm like, you could have definitely paid. Like she was basically like, I can't pay. You're on your own. Figure it out type vibes. And looking back, I'm like, well, you bought this car. Like you could have made.
You bought this car.
She always made a way, so I know she could have it if she needed to.
Yeah, no doubt.
I'm the type of person where I don't like borrowing money from people. I never wanted to owe people, so I was just like, you don't gotta pay another dime for me after. Like, when I get to college. Like I got it because my mom already put me in the Solon schools, and that was a lot of money basically. So you know how parents always trying to guilt shame you. I'm like, all right, well, you don't got to pay for nothing else for the rest of my life. Like I can get a full ride, I can do it myself, and that's how I went about it.
At that point, did you know about the? You said you weren't really aware of the next level, the USA on your chest. You know what I mean? Those games.
Yeah, that was after my freshman year when I was aware of I knew about the Olympics, but I didn't think it was obtainable until I put it in perspective of you're the top athlete in the world under the age of 21 in the Western Hemisphere. But the Pan American Games are for all the Western Hemisphere countries, and then the World Championships are for every country in general. So I was like, if you're number 2 on that world list for the Western Hemisphere, that's big time. If you could consider the whole world, I think I was number 5 for athletes under 21. So I felt like those same guys who are good at this moment at their young age, they're going to be the top people, when they get older.
Right. How was that process? Like of you graduating high school and then going to Kent and like you said, not just like you just explained to us, finding your way through, but that whole quick, thrust into the spotlight.
That was hard actually because you also didn't know how good you were until you did it. So at one point you have potential, and then you feel like you could obtain something, but then when you put the work in, you overshoot the goal by a lot.
Man.
So I think an upperclassman actually told me that I was the only freshman at the NCAA championship. So then I looked at the roster and I realized, oh shit, I'm the number 1 freshman in the country, basically.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, I didn't realize it, and then
light bulb.
Yeah, and then I went to the so basically to make the Pan American team, the junior team, you got to audition at the at the U.S. championships, but it has to be for the juniors. So they're at the same competition, but you might compete the day before the senior level people compete. So by me being, I think I was 17 or 18 at the time, I competed on a junior day to make the junior Pan American team. So, me and Fanger, the coach at Kent State, it's a certain weight that you have to throw. So in college, you're throwing a 2 kilogram. In high school, you're throwing a 1.6 kilogram. For the international junior weight, it's 1.75. So I had thrown the 2K all year for college because I'm trying to get used to throwing the 2K only because I'm trying to go against the big boys, basically, because I didn't redshirt. So I pretty much was like, I'm up here. I'm going to compete up here at this level, basically. So 2 weeks before the Junior USA Championships, I started throwing a lighter one. And it's a big difference in throwing those 2 weights, too. So we pretty much figured you got to worry about getting your scholarship first, make sure you are taken care of on the college level, and then everything else is pro bono. So I actually made that team against athletes who were using that weight all year. Like they were trying to make that team alone, you know what I'm saying? So I pretty much had to worry about being good in college and then taking 2 weeks to convert to make that team to make my dreams, go further basically.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so once I made that team, that's when Kent realized, now we really got to pay him. Really got to get him a good ride. Because now I'm getting, awards from different areas. Kent actually gave me the Freshman Athlete of the Year award. So now the whole school gave you that award over the football players who are usually favorites at a university. So that put it in perspective for them, he's doing better too.
As a freshman.
Yeah. Yeah. So that
big.
Yeah.
So was it you doing all this traveling, training, traveling? How hard was it to maintain your academics, throughout this process?
I feel like my freshman year was definitely the hardest because I'm still from Cleveland. I'm still from inner city Cleveland. Even when I went to Solon, I was doing well, but I was doing well because of I have a photographic memory. So if I seen a teacher write something on the board, I would just remember that for a week and then write it down on the test. So I kind of was using, I guess, me as a person, my skills to help me at Solon, right? But when you go to college, there's so many more distractions that mentally you might not be there to take advantage of every situation. You might be tired and miss a class. You might, your social life might be too much. the track life might be too much. It's just
hanging with DB. You know what I mean?
right. Rosie and them trying to give you alcohol at the party. You like, no. But I would say you gotta know your goals and you gotta know where you want to go. So like there were so many distractions, but as you know, Rosie was a great influence actually because he wasn't like everyone else. Like he wasn't getting drunk and all. Like he was actually more in control. Like he would set up the money side of like how all the football players got into the parties. Like he would negotiate with the party promoters. So he was a little bit different mentally, and I could see that. So my thing was I wasn't even drinking as a freshman. I just kind of was like, I don't even want to drink. I've drunk before, but I'm trying to like earn a scholarship. I'm trying to, I had a goal for myself. And my teammates were all doing X, Y, Z. I was still party, but I found that fine line between doing both to where I'm cool, I'm with the crowd, but like I'm focused to where I'm getting everything done. And I feel like the hard part is just finding that balance. And that's up to you as a person. Like you can't tell somebody else what to do. Like,
no, absolutely. I think something we touched on previously, we talked about, the three components of college, basically your social life, your sports, and academics. We say, a lot of times one of those at least have to take a back seat.
Yep.
Do you agree with that?
Yeah. So I think I party probably once every 3 or 4 weeks, right? My teammates, some of them partied every week. Some people party every day, The ones who partied every day didn't make it past the semester. They was out. The ones who partied every week, they weren't good, So I kind of felt like me doing the sport at less time than most people. So at that time I had 3 years of training in the sport. I'm like, I basically got to catch up to people who have been doing this their whole life. So I also had that perspective too of like, you got to put in overtime to like beat people basically. Right. You're not going to just be good without training. So a lot of my energy went into training. A lot of my energy made sure that I kept my scholarship, even though I think my first year I got like a 2.6 or something. So like if you're under a 3 you count as like double money against the track team basically.
Oh man,
that's great. So Lawson, he was the head coach. He was definitely making sure I knew that. He's like, Reggie, I'm paying double for you now because you got under a 3.0. And then my rebuttal was, well, make sure you give me a full ride. If you give me a full ride, then I don't have to count against you, basically. But,
yeah, for sure.
He's obviously trying to construct a team, so he's like, I need you to have better grades so that I can get so-and-so on the team too. You know what I'm saying? So I kind of had to think about the team as well. And my GPA got up, and I was able to help the team in a positive way so I could, have academic money and then have, athletic money, and they don't really count against him because the school's paying for it versus him paying for it.
Yeah, you try to figure out where you were on the chessboard.
Yeah, and then I was performing well. My grades were well, so pretty much I could get whatever I want from them because I'm doing everything I can do. And I'm
sorry.
I think when cost of tuition came out, that came out my junior year, and the big schools were doing cost of tuition, so I had to have another talk with them where I'm like, I broke the school record. There's not much I want to do here. You know what I'm saying? Like it's a smaller school. All these other schools have been calling me. I kind of want to go out there and see what's going on. Like I want to go to LSU. I want to go to Alabama. I want to go to Clemson. And they paying cost of tuition, so they'll give me double what you're giving me, at this time. So this is why I feel like I'm more of an entrepreneur too. After track, that's what I want to do. Kind of use my mind more because I was negotiating at a young age when I didn't even know I could negotiate. So I pretty much told him, I'm like, well, you can pay me 130% because I looked it up in this rule. So then at one point in college, I was getting 130, 140%. And each year after nationals, I would tell him, hey, can I get, extra 10%, blah, blah, blah. And then my performance would justify it. So to the point where he just like, here you go, here you go, here you go. So, I felt like he had to pay to keep me there, but I also performed really well. So it helped.
You can back it up.
Yeah, that's major.
Yeah. And then I had to tell him, I'm like, I want to look out for throwers too on my team because I'm like, the throwing team was doing better than the track team. And I felt like because we were all competitive and I felt like I was able to be a leader with my guys to like show them like there's more to us than whatever you are right now. You can always be better. So I started negotiating. I'm like, Coach, if you say you need 8 points to get a full ride or whatever, I'm like, well, my dude Dave here he won the championship. I need him to get his money too, because a lot of our sprinters would get money and they weren't even good. And I kind of was just like, it's kind of like y'all got privilege, like if you run on the track versus if you're a big dude throwing. And I kind of need it to be equal just off of performance alone. So, that was my main thing.
When did you feel like you had to step into that leadership role? Was it at an early age, or do you feel like you did that as you grew as an upperclassman?
I would say even at an early age, I wasn't really that type, because you're not, especially when you go into schools where they don't really want you there, you're not really going to be that vocal because you're trying to like navigate and see what's going on. But once I got more confidence and I started growing up and like seeing the world for how it is, I started seeing how much power I have as an athlete. Started seeing how situations, that you overcame and like just all that type of stuff. I felt like it was only right for me to speak up, because if I was in that situation, I would want, someone to inform me that, you shouldn't be paying for school if you're at this level, you know what I'm saying? No matter what event you do.
No doubt.
So that was just more of me just being myself, like going against the grain a little bit, kind of standing up for myself.
Which is dope, man. Everybody needs that person on their team, whether it's track, football, basketball, no matter what sport it is. That vocal leader that can vouch for what's right for the greater good of the team is something that every sport needs and every sport has. So he was that person for your team.
Well, you have to realize that the head coach, he's a general manager. He's trying to put together a great team with the least amount of money. He's trying to put it up so it makes sense. And I saw the puzzle a little bit differently than he saw it. I'm like, you get most of your points from the throwing squad, so that's where most of your money should come from. Now, if you start bringing in people who are sprinting well and they're like performing well at the right times, then they should get paid too. If that's not who you're recruiting, and you need to let them, like if they come in on a full ride and they're not performing, I'm like, why are you still paying them? They 30 pounds overweight. You know what I'm saying? Like they're not like. I'm like, my throwers over here, we in the weight room every day, grinding, putting up big weight. We're being students of the game. We're putting in a lot of work. Our grades are good too.
You watch film? Obviously, you watch yourself throw. Have to, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we watch a lot of film. Like I said, I learned the sport by YouTube. So I pretty much watched a lot of videos over and over to where I could, mimic it and make it look like I knew what I was doing, until I really knew what I was doing. So
for sure.
Like in the game.
Tonight, tomorrow, you watching film?
Yeah. So right now for the Olympic trials, I basically because you only have so much mental energy, right?
True.
So before the Olympic trials, I kind of spaced out a little bit and allowed myself to kind of relax. And then leading up to the week of the trials, I locked in film-wise. I locked in everything mentally to prepare myself and physically. So I recovered properly, ice baths, Normatex massages. I did all that to make sure I was ready to go, and made the team, obviously. And then that's a lot of mental, like you just exhausted at one point. So this whole week has been about me kind of calming down and like me just getting my body back ready to perform again. So now I'm getting to the level where I'm locking back in mentally. I'm watching film now again, and that's hopefully going to get me to the goal of getting a medal at the Olympic Games. So that's a goal. But you can't, like, it's hard to lock in for 4 weeks straight because your mind can just explode.
Yeah. And it probably was way harder because you answer this. How hard was it to lock in after you trained so hard, 19, 20, then the Olympics got canceled, postponed? How hard was it to lock in?
There's some stories for you, though. So,
There's some stories.
So in 2019, let's go back to 2018. 2018, I had a record-breaking year. I was 6th in the world. This came off of me going, coming from college to where I was an NCAA runner-up. So I was not top in the world when I was an NCAA runner-up. I'm number 2 in college. So if you think about how many people are better than me in the world, just on that standpoint, who are older, you know what I'm saying? So that year I didn't make the world championship team. I think I strained my groin at the U.S. Championships or the week before it, to where I placed 8th at the U.S. Championships. So I'm not even the top 8 guy in the U.S. at that time. You know, I was also hurt, but I feel like I would have made the team if I wasn't hurt, but I was hurt. So I placed 8th. The next year, I have a record-breaking year in 2018. I end up, being 6th in the world. I'm traveling, all over. I become a U.S. champion as well. So then I'm really like ascending on like the professional level, and I go into 2019 to where the same things happen, where I'm doing really well. I started the season really well. Then I tear my labrum in my hip. So I had to pretty much navigate and still perform well. So now, since I did so well in 2018, all the meets in Europe want me to come out. They want me to fly out. They want me to fly to Africa. So I ended up still flew out there for those meets, being hurt. And I still did well, still did really well. So halfway through the 2019 season, my dad passed away. And I feel like that was probably like a lot to go through in that moment. And I didn't really mourn. Yeah, because I still had to compete. I didn't mourn. I didn't do any of that. And I ended the year getting a bronze at the Pan American Games. So if y'all remember, in 2013, when I made the Junior Pan American Games and got bronze, it was like full circle to where now I'm a senior, to where this is where like it really counts with money and like you're a professional. I got the bronze at the older level meet. So I realized I'm like, this is where you were when you were younger. Now you got the same meet for like the senior people, like the pro people or whatever. So finished that off really well. So I felt like I was doing everything I could do with whatever the cards were dealt. You can't control that your dad passed away. That affected me a lot mentally, to where I never even really knew what mental health was until he passed away. So like I was always, just from being a football player alone, I felt like I was mentally better than all the track athletes because I played multiple sports that I was able to excel at, And when he passed away, that's when I realized that mental health is real, because you just don't feel the same. Maybe because of the trauma or whatever. You just think about things more, So that's when, the real type of game started of being a pro, because now you got even more to deal with. Now you got trauma, you got people you can never talk to again, like just stuff like that. So I started off 2020 going to a training camp in Jamaica. So I'm in Jamaica for a full month. This is where I'm really getting pro. I'm like, I can take a trip here, do a training camp, get the culture of Jamaica, have a really good coach, really good training partners. I can really choose who I want, because now I'm doing well.
It's crazy.
Yeah. So I spent a whole month in Jamaica. Shout out to my Jamaicans. That was an amazing experience.
Shout out to my Jamaicans.
I had good chicken every night, bro. I was eating good. It was perfect.
We got something in the crock pot right now. That's crazy, man.
Right, reggae night. It was regular night, but so I'm in Jamaica and I tear my pec. I tore my muscle on my pectoral muscle. So that was a big thing. So I was bench pressing 455 pounds for 5 sets of 3. I was on my 3rd set and I just went down and went to push, and my pec muscle just ripped off the bone.
455, 5 sets of 3. Oh, wait, go back. 455, 5 sets of 3. My boy said one time. 455, 5 sets of 3. My fault, I got froze on there. 455, 5 sets of 3, bro. Listen, I'm over here. I'm like, wait a minute. That's like, bro. You all right? Go. My fault. 15 times.
So
I see math was your strong point, huh, player?
So I think 2 weeks after that point, I was supposed to bench press and max out at 500 pounds. That's where the periodization was taking me to 500 basically in 2 weeks. So I was on 455 for 5 sets of 3. I was on my 3rd set. It was pretty light. It was pretty easy. And I just went down and went to push, and the doctor explained it, said that my muscle was too strong for the tendon, so it ripped it off the bone basically. So that basically meant that I got too strong too quickly. Like we were supposed to do a moderate weight for like 2 weeks so that your tendon could get used to heavy weight basically. So I felt perfectly fine. I didn't feel I didn't feel bad that day. I didn't feel like it was too heavy. It just a freak injury basically.
Wow.
Had to fly back to America. Had to get surgery 3 days later. that's when mentally a lot of things just felt like, am I even gonna make the Olympic team? You know, it's 2020. I prepared the best I could. I was the strongest, fastest, mentally, technical wise. I was the best I could be, you know, for my event. And then to tear my muscle, that was big because it set me all the way back, you know. So I get the surgery and I just focus on me like every day, just recovery. How do I get better? How do I do a different drill or pull to just, you know, whatever you can do, you know. I would say a month later, the pandemic hit. So now, if you all know how y'all felt during the pandemic, just stack tearing your pectoral muscle and getting surgery and your career possibly being over. Just put that on top of it.
A lot of stress there.
Yeah, a lot of
Talk
stress.
about mental strength. You gotta have a lot of mental strength.
Yeah, and it made me have to like learn how to control my mind even better. So in track, I feel like I excel because I can control my mind better. Because I feel like the sport is pretty mental. Like everyone's athletic, everyone's physical, but how do you use every fiber of your body to in your event, basically? Like how can you get your body to do everything you want it to do, basically? So I pretty much had to tap in and meditate, had to do some yoga, like just stuff where I can like control my thoughts and I can be in control of it. And the pandemic hitting actually helped me too, because I felt like I was gonna make the Olympic team after surgery. I'm like, I'm gonna go hard anyway. I'm training at park, I'm training at high schools, I'm lifting in my friend's garage. I'm like literally doing like if there was no pandemic, I was still getting the same level of training in, no matter what. Like that's how hard I was going, to where I knew I had to catch up to other people. So kind of like when I was in high school and college, where I had to catch up to people with my time in the sport, I'm like, I just tore my pec. So now I really got to put overtime in to catch up to everybody else. And that dedication helped me because each day I got better, each day, to where I got to a point where I'm even competing and people didn't even know I tore my pec, you know?
Wow.
I put in so much work that I came back like flawless, basically. And no one knew because I didn't talk about it on social media. If you look at my posts, I never mentioned, you know, tearing my pec in 2020 until I made the Olympic team, because I felt like I didn't want sympathy from people. I didn't want my competitors to know I tore it too, because I wanted to come back so good that like when I beat you, you just like, yo, you just tore your pec like 8 months ago or 12 months ago, like what, you know what I'm saying? So I was on that type of vibe, like fuck everything else. You're gonna put the work in and you're gonna get back to where you were at, partly because you're talented and you're more talented than the people around you. So technically, if you're at this level and you tear your pec, you're here, but everyone else is still here. And that's probably from the LeBron effect. You know, LeBron's so good that like even if he's older, he's still better than most people. You know?
Yeah, for sure.
Even if you're older, you start here and you're here, other people started here, and they're, you know what I'm saying? So that's kind of how I looked at it, you know. And yeah, tearing the pec was horrible. That was horrible. So.
I could only imagine.
Yeah.
To kind of, you know, wrap it up, one of the last questions. If you were to have a conversation with your, you know, 16-year-old self, what would that conversation look like?
It'll kind of be like a father to his son, basically. Like saying, like, I sacrificed so much for you. I tried to make every decision thinking about you. So I feel like the reason why I was able to make good decisions in college, high school, and professionally is because I always thought about my younger self. I'm like, or my future self as well. So I usually would be like, what would future Reggie appreciate from what you're doing now? So that's where I'm like, when you tear your pec, the future you is going to be happy if you put in all the work. When, you know, the pandemic hit, people was kicking it. People was just like, the world's over, basically. I can do whatever I want. Mm-hmm. So for me, I was like, the world's going to pop back up at one point and be the world again. Be yourself again. So it pretty much was like, let me think about myself in that final, like, where I overcame everything, where I made the Olympic team, and now I got to put all the work in to make that happen. So the future Reggie or my younger Reggie, I would just be like, I did this all for you. And this was your dream. And now we have completed it together, and we're still going to complete more things. but we came from so far basically.
Absolutely.
Yeah, no, that's dope.
Lastly, there's probably a ton of young student athletes now that are looking to be in the Olympic Games someday. What's some advice that you would give to a high school student athlete, thinking about going to college and thinking about being where you are today?
So if I was a young kid, I would say you got to come up with goals, and then you got to think about how can I make this goal really happen. Because it's one thing to just talk about something, but you got to think about the process. Like, how am I going to, like a business plan basically, but it got to be like with your life.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when I would say my goals out loud to my teammates at every level, it was like, you crazy. They're like, there's no way you're going to be top in the state. They're like, there's no way you're going to be, top in XYZ. And that's because of probably what they thought they could do themselves. But I felt like I could do more. And that thought alone is what makes you do more than other people, because they don't even have that thought to be better. So they could never be better,
Wow.
Absolutely.
Never.
Man.
Hey, real quick. Hey, Reg, real quick.
Let's go,
You
bro.
always talk about,
Sorry. Go ahead.
you always talk about where you're from, Cleveland, and I got a lot of Cleveland people. It's real pride, there's a lot of pride up there. You made a post. It said, I'm from Cleveland. Honestly, we just built different. I don't care if I tore my pec in 2020. If I'm feeling like a dead body the day of the final, we gonna make a way out of no way. We gonna make the Olympic team by any means. Pound BIFC. Just tell me what it mean to be from Cleveland. Why? Where's that pride come from?
I feel like it's probably a similar thing as being from Pittsburgh. Y'all 2 hours away. So I feel like that whole Midwest vibe is just like, me living in California, you can see why people live in California. When you live in the Midwest, people be like, why do you live there? It's cold. It's not going to be the best type of environment. It's just not a pleasant place to be in. But if you're in that area, that means you're still grinding. That means you're still getting it done. That means you might be stuck where you're at, but you're also working to be the best at where you're at. When you're in California, you can go to the beach. There's so much you can just do to escape just being from where you're at. So being from Cleveland is just more of you're hard nosed. We deal with the winter, which is basically 7 months or whatever, long time being cold outside. You'll get summer for 2 months and go back to being cold. So that type of, we go out there, we shoveling the snow. We still going to school when it's negative, 10 degrees out. We driving cars when it's ice on the road. Like you just going through this, rough things that most people wouldn't want to go through. So being from Cleveland is more just getting it done by any means, like I said. And I feel like that's something that we carry as a pride, being from the Midwest. And yeah, that's why we succeed. So if I come from the Midwest and I'm used to all that bullshit, and now I'm living in California and things are peachy, I feel like that's really why my pro career. So when I was in college, I went from 62 meters, which is 205 feet. I went to 68 in my first year pro. So that means I jumped 20 feet on my personal best. Wow. So 1 year ago, I was 20 feet less than where I was the next year. And that means I was already at elite level. So for you to jump up 20 feet, and you're already at elite, that means there had to be a lot of leaps and bounds in that year, which was actually 6 months basically. So I feel like being from Cleveland, how when it was snowing, I was training outside. It's freezing, I'm still outside training. To now, I'm in the best conditions for me to train because the environment's better. So now I can train longer, I can train harder, I can train more days, obviously. So I would say that's what really helped me to go to the next level, because people didn't realize, and even I didn't realize, going to Kent State and staying in Ohio wasn't the best for my athletic career. If you go to the South, there's a reason why they're faster than a lot of people up north. They literally been running outside year round.
Oh yeah.
Think about how many sprints you did more than someone from the north if they weren't at an indoor facility, or if they didn't, train in the snow. They've been training for longer. So I started to realize how much that can help with training if you're outside in better conditions year round.
Right. No, that's dope. I seen that. That gave me little goosebumps though.
Right.
Real quick, we're gonna wrap it up. how do you feel? Let me get your opinion. You can answer it. You don't gotta answer it. How you feel about the Sha'Carri Richardson situation?
Woo.
You don't gotta answer it. You know what I mean? But I would like to answer. The people would like to answer.
All right, I got a song for y'all. It was I was gonna go to the Olympics. Until I get high. Bro, I'm seeing the memes, bro. The memes are saying Wheaties, like with Wheaties.
Yeah.
Man, I ain't seen none yet.
I ain't seen none yet.
You know the cereal Wheaties? It says Wheaties.
You said Wheaties.
With her picture on it, just plastered. I'm like, I feel like it's very unfortunate. So each year, track and field, I guess, changes that rule about marijuana. They kind of like decriminalize it each year. So there was one point where you couldn't even do marijuana in your season. Now you can smoke marijuana out of competition and out of season. So if I'm not at a competition when they test me, I could be high. In her case, she either smoked that day of the track meet or she smoked the night before to where she was so high the night before that it's still read a certain level at the competition. So for me, I'm just like, you know the rules. Getting too high the night before, even smoking the day of, is going to get you popped because you're the number one girl going in. If you place top 3 at the trials, you're getting drug tested because you made the Olympic team. So she should know that they're going to test me because they test me when I win, and you plan to win. So you should know not to smoke weed. Because it's like once you know your goals, like if I was going in 10, I might fuck it, I'm gonna smoke because I'm not gonna win. You feel me? You might have that mindset.
Yeah.
If I went in 10, I'm still gonna think I'm gonna win. But other people are different.
Right.
So she went in number 1 and still smoked, knowing she would get drug tested.
Damn.
She also lost her mother 5 days before the trials. And I believe in the interview said that the guy who was interviewing her told her that her mom had passed away. So it was her biological mother, and she was raised by her grandma. So a complete stranger basically told you that your biological mother just passed away.
Right.
So I felt like in her situation, she wasn't thinking clearly, probably. Because when I lost my dad, I was making a lot of irrational decisions that I wouldn't normally make. Like, good ideas weren't good ideas, and bad ideas were good ideas at that time. Like, that's how it was. So I know her in that situation, her mind was probably not processing things how it would normally process. So she probably didn't even think like they're going to test me tomorrow,
Mm-hmm.
So, I empathize with her in that regard. I feel like the marijuana rule should not even be there anymore because it's not a performance enhancing drug. But at the current time, it's there, and she knows it's there. So you got to have accountability, but you need to make sure that rule is not there anymore. Because I felt some type of way when I saw the rule book for 2020 and 2021. I see the rule and I hit up all my weed friends because I smoke sometimes. I got friends who smoke a lot, so I hit them up. I'm like, y'all better know this rule. Y'all better, be educated because I don't want y'all to get in trouble because, this rule is kind of like still here, just let y'all know it's still here. And I just think that this rule is also like a European favorite type of rule. So in track and field, the pro sector is more in Europe. So we got 80% of the best athletes in the world are in America, but we got to fly to Europe to compete on their circuits and beat them basically because they have all the structure for track and field. In America, we have the structure for football, MLB, and basketball basically. So I feel like a lot of rules that are drawn up are more favorites to Europeans than to Americans or even the Jamaicans or the Caribbeans because marijuana is pretty big over here, And I feel like that rule was more set up to limit the amount of great athletes in any way possible on like technicalities. So if I fail a drug test and weed's like normal on this side of earth, basically, why should I be penalized with a technicality when it has nothing to do with performance enhancing? So I just feel like it's a way for the Europeans to stay competitive against our top people because we have the possibility of not making the Olympic team by how Sha'Carri, by what happened with her. So I feel like we should all fight because technically, just like how in America, we was criminalized, and we kind of had to fight for a long time for people to realize that this law is only really affecting Black people. And there's drugs like cocaine and XYZ that get less penalties. So when you start to realize this is really only affecting us. So I feel like as Americans and even the Jamaicans and Caribbean islands, we need to band together and show that this shouldn't even be on the list because we shouldn't have the potential possibility of getting in trouble for it because it's not a performance enhancing drug.
Mm-hmm.
That's where I stand on it. I just feel like it shouldn't be there. So
No, I'm with you on that, man.
yeah. And I'm like, it's not steroids. It's not anything that can advance you in that regard. Why is it on the banned substance list if it's not a performance enhancing? That's kind of what I'm like, this drug shouldn't even be in your jurisdiction. Like this should be up to the country. Like if you're in a country that has it legal, if you're in a state that has it legal, they should be the one to decide if it's legal or not. I'm like, your job as a doping committee is to make sure people aren't doping, doing steroids, performance enhancing, any type of blood thinners, blood doping, XYZ. That's your jurisdiction. And I feel like they're kind of overstepping because we haven't spoke up about how we feel about, the drug. So
too much gray area. I agree.
Right. And basically, I was talking to our doping control people because I'm like, y'all say we can smoke out of competition. And I was asking them, I'm like, so what if you smoke a lot the night before? And then, you're at a certain level to where at the meet you might register as being high, even though you didn't smoke that day. And they pretty much were saying, well, just don't smoke the night before. And then I'm like, all right, well, what if you're a heavy smoker and you've been smoking for 8 weeks, so it's going to be in your system longer. I'm like, where is this rule? Like, how do you know, where you're at? Do you have to stop smoking 2 weeks before a competition? Do you have to stop smoking, 8 weeks or XYZ? And I felt like there's a lot of gray areas in the rule to where it just made me just say, I'm not going to smoke because it's too much.
Yeah, for sure.
Right.
Yeah.
That's the right decision.
Yeah, but she lost her mother. There's a lot going on. Pandemic, all that stuff. I can see why people smoke and why, people.
How was Jamaica? You know what I mean? When you went out.
Yeah. People smoking everywhere. Like it's fucking,
I'm just joking, bro. No,
Right.
I know. I'm just saying. We're on the same page. Just know, bro. Don't worry about it.
Right, Rasta, man. You already know. They smoking, so.
But nah, it's definitely dope, man. We appreciate you finding time out your day. I know it's a long day for you. Appreciate you making time for us.
Yeah, definitely, no doubt, man. I thought it was a super good conversation. Young student athletes will be able to take a lot from it, especially when you talk about mentality. The Kent brothers, man. The Kent brotherhood lives on.
Hey,
so
we gotta give it USA again. USA.
Right. I haven't been. I mean, Kent. That's my alma mater, obviously, but I usually go back there and train in the off season, so that's where I usually get my grind back too. So I feel like me, I guess, centering myself back where it all started. I like that type of vibe. So I go back and I train with the college athletes. I just talk to them about what's going on. Kind of even use them as training partners too, and kind of just like be one of the guys again.
You're connected.
That's the. You gotta be surreal, bro.
I get stronger for some reason when I'm in Ohio. I get stronger. I don't know what it is.
That's that I'm from Cleveland, man.
Right, I'm just like lifting. I'm just like squatting everything too. So yeah,
they got a lot of pride out. They definitely got a lot of pride out there, DB. Like you know what I mean?
Sure.
Kind of get me like Pittsburgh, Cleveland. You know what I mean? Y'all along the same line. I can't give you the edge. You know what I mean? We just can't give you the edge, bro. No.
So now that I think about it, I actually wish that I had somebody like myself to talk to me in that moment, because I would have played track and football. Like that's what I wanted to do, and I feel like I was good enough to do both. But I remember we had Dree Archer try out for the track team, and the football coaches timed him, and I feel like he didn't run a fast enough time for the football coaches to say it's worth you doing track and football. So
man,
the track
just to clear that story up, man, I was there. Dree ran a 4.21 just by hand time when we was winter training. We probably
I'm talking about he ran 100 though. You can run
he ran 100.
40. We talking about the 100, the whole shebang. Right. So I'm not saying it was bad though. He could have ran a good time, but the football coaches were saying like, we don't want you, it's not worth it at this time.
We gotta get him on and find out. We're gonna get him on and find out.
Well, that made the coaches beef. So like the track coaches and the football coaches, they just weren't getting along after that. And I remember our head coach was like, "You can't do football, or I'm taking it." Right? No, he thought he was gonna get Dree on the team, so he was like probably getting happy, like, "Oh, we're gonna have Dree fast dude, blah. We can make him faster." That type of vibe. And the coaches was like, "Nah, you can't get him." But then they were like, "Well, nah, Reggie can't play football," and that's where their type of like their beef got in with me. And if I had the older Reggie talking to me or whatever, I would probably just say leverage yourself, just bet on yourself and do it. Like, tell them to take your scholarship, go play football, get the scholarship in football, and then come back and do track if you want. So,
don't forget what you told us, man, about the.
Hey, bro. Good luck, man, in Tokyo. You know what I mean? Safe travel.
When are you competing?
I compete on the 30th and 31st.
30th and 31st. All right, we'll be tuning in, man. So good luck out there, and for all of the social media guys, make sure you follow Reggie, and keep up with what he's doing in the Olympic Games, and make sure you guys tune in on the 30th and 31st and check him out, see what he's about, man. So we're all rooting for you, bro.
Appreciate it, man. Appreciate it.
Let's go.
No doubt, so. All right, bro. We'll check talking to you. We'll check you later, bro. Good talking to you.
Nice to meet you.
I'll catch y'all later. Yep. See you.
All right.
Hey, man, we'll just wrap it up with my man Reggie Jagers from yours truly. You know what I mean? Hold it down. and it's real big, especially personally knowing I could say I know an Olympian. Not too many people can say that. Not too many people can say they interviewed the Olympian. So that's real big. I'm wishing the best for him. Hoping he bring that gold home from Tokyo. Hold it down. That'd be amazing, man.
Yeah, he talked a lot about the mindset and overcoming adversity and the obstacles that he faced. That student athletes would take a lot from, man. The mentality is more than half the battle, and you can obviously see that his mindset is one that was able to uplift him and prevail in everything that he did. So it was good to hear that conversation.
And my favorite thing that I keep hearing, especially when we're talking to these athletes or former athletes, they're taking the mental health, serious. Like, so, you know what I mean? And I think it's coming around more and more, but it's good to hear that, people admitting like, mental health is serious.
Yeah,
I mean,
for sure.
Hearing that coming from, each of these athletes, hearing it just recently from Reggie and how he had to, get out of that space he was in. That's big, man. The more we recognize mental health, the better off we're going to be as a society.
No doubt. Keep that, keep that mental right, and take it serious. If you need help, seek help. And really be in tune with yourself and in tune with what you feel is right and what you feel is wrong in terms of your mental. So, he hit it on the head. When his father passed away, he had to take a step back, and that really helped his athletic career. And you see what he's doing now.
Unashamed.
Tokyo.
Tokyo, baby.
Unashamed too. I'm gonna add to that what y'all just said, both of y'all. He's unashamed of him having to take a step back, and you know what I mean. And it is what it is. You got to go through what you go through in life. Everybody we have talked to, bro, has, like you said, DB, talked about mental health, and they all are unashamed. It's every level too. It could be anybody. You know what I mean? He's going to Tokyo. You know what I mean? It could be a teacher who deals with student athletes every day, like Chant. You know what I'm saying? It's just it's life, real life, bro.
No doubt, man. But Make sure y'all go ahead and hit that follow button for status 412_, and be able to tune into these conversations because they are some good ones, boy.
Hey, man, until the next time. Peace.
Deuces. Status Podcast.